Well, we've got to that time of year again where our African birds are now coming up to breeding season. This is Angus and Satara, our flying and breeding pair of white-headed vultures. Satara, the bird on the right there, with the white barring on her wings. Beautiful birds. We're sort of mid-November now, so we're just under a month away really from a potential egg. So I've just come up to check their nest, which we leave alone most of the year round, but just prior to breeding season, just come up and make sure that everything's stable. They're fantastic nest builders, this pair. Produced 2 youngsters now over the last couple of years. We're fully aware that they may not be successful this year, but so far the signs are right. They've been showing good signs over the last few days of approaching the season again. You see the nest is wonderfully lined with a lot of their casting material and grasses and moss that they've picked up around the aviary. Quite a large enclosure, so they've got plenty of natural things to line their nest with. But every year it's worth just checking to make sure that the nest is still stable, because nests do fall apart in the wild as they build on them every year. Maybe they become too heavy for the tree, the structure that they're sat on. And we've come across nests in the wild from vultures in Africa that have just seen their day and collapse, so the birds will quite often move on or try and rebuild. But we can just make sure that that doesn't happen. Obviously you could lose an egg if you're not careful, or a chick. So we have the luxury with our birds here that we can ensure that doesn't happen. So I've just done a quick structural check. Everything seems nice and strong. What we tend to do as well is just clear out the cup of the nest a little bit, where all this soft casting is. It builds up and builds up and builds up, and if you're not careful it becomes the same level as the actual nest, and then there's prime opportunities for maybe an egg to roll out, or a young chick to sort of crawl out a bit further. So if we can just create a little bit of a depression there in the cup of the nest, we've found that pretty successful for the next season for breeding. And then we know that the egg and then the young chick, if they're successful, will just have that nice area to sit in without being able to move out too far. So it all looks pretty good, basically. We will now leave them to it. Got a little bit of final maintenance work to do in the aviary over the next couple of days, just a final strim the grasses and the weeds and make sure that access to all the perches and around the aviary is good, and then we basically just leave them to it. Put food in every day, plus nesting material. They will find their own in and around the enclosure. There's a lot of natural areas. We'll throw in some of the stuff we know they like, a lot of fine grasses, and although they're big vultures, it's not always big nest material they use. You can see some of this stuff here, very fine grasses that they'll weave in. Very intricate actually with their beaks. Smells a bit up here, but other than that they've done a really good job of it. And then hopefully we'll get success. That will be 3rd year running, which is amazing. Critically endangered bird of prey. One of the very few collections that have managed to breed this species, and plus they're a flying bird as well, so it's a huge success for us, and we're really proud of them. So anyway, I'm going to leave them to it. The other beauty actually, just before I do go, is that, you know, they're trained birds, so even though they're a breeding pair, you can see they're nice and settled over there, because we've had contact with them over the years. They're trained, they've flown in our shows for a number of years, created this fantastic bond, and now hopefully they'll breed every year. We fly their youngsters, we'll fly them throughout certain seasons as well, so this whole sort of setup and circle hopefully is the way for us to go. When their youngsters become mature, then they'll pair up with other birds as well from other collections, whether they stay here or go elsewhere, and they're all part of the breeding program. So it works really well, or should do in the future anyway, but we're at the very early stages of this. So we're one of the few collections that have managed to successfully breed this species. But this to me is great, that I can just go up to the back of the nest here, and it's not a really bad experience for the vultures invading their area, their quiet area. They sat there quite confidently. So I'll leave them to it, lock the back of the nest site up again, and we'll see what goes. So this is Angus and Satara from the outside of the aviary. I've just been up to the nest up there. All looking good. Mum and Dad ready for another season. Actually, while we're here, just have a quick look across the way. We've recently just revamped this aviary, and this is their first youngster, Lancaster, who Mike is training at the moment, and James. They're both responsible for training Lancaster, and she'll be joining our demonstrations as and when, but certainly into next year. Should see her as a regular appearance throughout our shows. First white-headed vulture we ever bred. No whitehead, because she's a baby, so it'll take a few years. She's beautiful, and she's sat opposite Mum and Dad there. And then further down the way, next enclosure, we have two more juvenile white-headed vultures. This is Lancaster's younger brother. And an unrelated male from our other pair of white-headed vultures. These are both last year's birds, and then the other vultures in here are a flying team of African white-backed vultures, Cassius Clay and Picardy. All bred here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vultures, all bred at the trust. Parents all still live here. We love our vultures, you can probably tell. Any regulars will know the 3 white-backed vultures from our daily shows, Wings of Africa. They take part in. They've just finished their flying season now, so they've got the winter off. And we thought it'd be really nice to put the young white-headed vultures in here, just to get a bit of natural experience with other vultures. They'll certainly coincide in the wild when it comes to feeding, and regularly we'll put a carcass in here for them to feed from. You see some real natural behaviour. In our conservation research department want to do a few studies on the way they interact around their feed, see if they'll mimic a lot of the wild habits that they've got. So it'll be quite interesting to see that. And in the meantime, Lancaster, who's a year further on, is continuing her training over the winter with Mike and James. And then when she's in her stride, she's at very early stages at the moment, then we will pop the other 2 young white-headed vultures in with her. So we've got a team of white-headed vultures that will progressively fly throughout the seasons. A team of white-backed vultures, and the circle continues. Hello. You're beautiful, aren't you? Lovely. Not a bad way to spend your morning, eh? We'll see you soon.